This podcast contains scenes some listeners might find distressing. From the Times and the Sunday Times, this is The Story. I'm Manveen Rana. 13 years ago, a video appeared online.
The next 27 minutes are an experiment. But in order for it to work, you have to pay attention.
And people did pay attention. It was still the early days of social media, but this video very quickly went viral.
This week, a phenomenon has swept classrooms and campuses in the US, the UK, and well beyond.
The top story on most every social media site out there
just became so big and so popular so fast.
But this wasn't a clip of an influencer or a dancing cat. This was a hard-hitting 30-minute film about a Ugandan warlord.
For 26 years, Kony has been kidnapping children into his rebel group, turning the girls into sex slaves, and the boys into child soldiers. And this is not just a few children. It's been over 30,000.
The film, Kony 2012, broke records and made its subject infamous overnight. The warlord, Joseph Kony, became one of the world's first accidental internet celebrities and public enemy number one. But despite a global manhunt and a $5 million bounty on his head, he's never been caught. After more than a decade in hiding, our correspondent sat down for a secret lunch with his son, who until recently was being groomed to take over from his father.
Well, I'm looking at the local dishes.
Hey, okay.
I think I've tried chicken stew. La kotoko. It's good?
Yeah, it's good. Yes, nothing is same.
In the last few weeks, the International Criminal Court has announced that Joseph Kony is accountable for 39 charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity. None implicate his son, but he has been sanctioned by the UN for nearly a decade. So is Ali Kony cast in the image of his father, or is he another of Joseph Kony's victims? Today, Kony's son tells his story for the first time. The story today, Lunch with a Warlord's Son. Would you mind just introducing yourself to our listeners?
I'm Richard Assheton. I'm a freelance foreign correspondent and I write world news features for the Sunday Times.
Richard has reported from all over the world. He's uncovered an Indian detention camp, helped to find a mammal believed to be extinct in the jungles of Papua, and occasionally caught malaria along the way. Most recently, he's been back in Africa, a continent he covered for years.
I've been in Uganda where I've been interviewing Ali Kony, who is the son of, and until recently was heir to, the warlord Joseph Kony. And to avoid the security services, we had a secret lunch in a missionary cafe in northern Uganda.
I mean, that sounds utterly intriguing. I can't wait to hear more. Before we launch into it, I suppose we ought to say, for anybody who remembers tracking this story and the story of Joseph Kony, the warlord, it seems we've got some of the basic facts quite wrong, including his name.
Indeed, I was interviewing someone about Joseph Kony, and he interrupted me to say, look, before we go on, you need to know his name is not Kony, it's Kon. It should be pronounced like cognac, he said, but without the ac.
Well, for the purposes of this podcast, we're going to carry on calling him Kony, but for accuracy, it's Kon. Just remind us a bit about who he is.
He was one of the first internet celebrities. He grew up as an altar boy in northern Uganda, became a faith healer, and then launched a guerrilla war against his government in the 1980s. His rebel group, the Lord's Resistance Army, became notorious for slicing the ears, mouths, and lips off its victims, for massacring entire villages, and for abducting tens of thousands of children to use as either sex slaves or soldiers.
The details were horrific, and when people became aware of what his army was doing in this 30-minute film released by American activists, I mean, there was genuine horror. Just remind us of what the global reaction was at the time.
This film was viewed 100 million times in 6 days, which was at the time a record. It was the first YouTube video to get 1 million views. It was shared by every Western celebrity, from Justin Bieber to Oprah Winfrey to Rihanna. President Obama had already sent about 100 mostly special forces soldiers to East Africa to try and track down Kony.
Today I can announce that our advisors will continue their efforts to bring this madman to justice. It's part of our regional strategy to end the scourge that is the LRA and help realize a future where no African child is stolen from their family and no girl is raped and no boy is turned into a child soldier.
And after the video, he announced a $5 million bounty on his head.
That was back in 2012. What made you interested about him again now, all these years later?
In September, the International Criminal Court began pre-trial proceedings over Joseph Kony. He was the first guy over whom an International Criminal Court arrest warrant was issued back in 2005. And for the first time, The Hague decided to carry out hearings with a defendant who's still at large. Kony faces 39 charges of crimes against humanity relating to several massacres that took place between 2002 and 2005.
Why is the ICC pursuing charges now?
Well, the ICC has come in for a lot of criticism lately. Donald Trump, when he came in, put sanctions on the court. And the ICC decided initially to have these proceedings over Joseph Kony before all this happened. But it has been suggested that partly its motivation was to fill the calendar. There weren't many cases going on at the time. The suggestion being that it was useful for the court to have a good news story. And Kony, the lawyer who was appointed by the court to represent him, is the lowest of low-hanging fruit, as he put it.
And you mentioned he is still at large. Despite that $5 million bounty, he's never actually been caught. So how did you go about getting in touch with his son and one-time heir?
Took a bit of time. I flew to Uganda. I would say 75% sure that I was going to get this interview. And in the end, it was a traditional ruler in that part of the country who set up the interview, a guy called Godwin Okello, who is actually the prime minister of one of the chiefdoms of the Acholi people of northern Uganda. And he's been instrumental in helping people who defect from Kony's rebel group return to Ugandan society. He knew Ali and he was able to negotiate an interview.
What do you think made Ali agree to do the interview?
Well, he wants to tell his side of the story. He wants to clear his name. He has UN sanctions hanging over him. He is still waiting for his official amnesty certificate from the Ugandan government. The Ugandan government gives amnesty to people who defect from his father's army. And he fears, I suspect, that one day he will be prosecuted. And he wants to speak to powerful people in the West and in the international community and make the point that he is as much a victim of this war, of his father's war, as anyone else.
So when you met him, where do you go to meet a warlord's son?
I was told to head to a missionary cafe in this town called Gulu. Yeah, can we order something? Can I offer
somebody's
offer lunch or
Yeah, somebody's coming.
It's a big bungalow. There are people having lunch, drinking coffee. There were some American young volunteers from a missionary charity there chatting. And we're in a little back room, which has a wooden table and bars on the windows. Ali is sitting on one banquette next to the door. Godwin is opposite him and I'm in the middle. And Godwin was acting as our translator.
So, I think we will use English.
Okay.
Where maybe like...
Smiling, Ali.
Yeah.
Ali does speak some English, understands quite well, but his English is broken.
For me, I don't know how to talk English too much, but I can hear. Yes, maybe Goodwin can translate other things to our audible language.
Does that suit you?
Yeah, that's okay.
So he mainly spoke in Acholi, his language. I would be lying if I said there wasn't a little frisson of fear that ran through me. Ali was between me and my exit, and he's a imposing presence. He's tall, he looks fit, he has this stare that penetrated me, and I had the impression that if he had wanted to make light work of me, he would have had a number of different ideas for how to do it.
Was he aware of the film that made Joseph Kony such a cult celeb in the West?
Extraordinarily to me, no. I mentioned the video almost in passing. I wanted to ask if you knew about it and your father knew about it. And if so, what did you think of it? And he shot me this quizzical look and he said twice, video.
Video money man. Organization American Colony Visible Children. Title of TNA Coin 2012.
It turned out not only had he not watched this video, but he'd never even heard of it.
When you look, man, Coin 2012 video money. Okay. They said they've never heard about that.
Really? Until now?
Yeah, I've never heard of it even after now.
I was almost there on the spot, felt like getting my phone out and sitting there and having a sort of movie night moment with him.
Tell us about his early life. When and where was he born?
He was born on January the 1st, 1994, he said, in Gulu. So Ali's mother, Medina, was herself kidnapped several times by Kony's men.
This is how I will start the story. My mother was abducted from school.
89.
That was around 1989.
Yes.
We must believe that she was forcefully impregnated. That's what happened to dozens of women that Kony abducted.
So she was taken to the bush. So the conditions at the bush at that time was harsh because there were a lot of battles. So with that fighting, she couldn't stay there. So she was released to come back home.
And then sent her back to Gulu, he said, whilst she was pregnant for her protection. And then when Ali was 6 months old, she was kidnapped again, against her will, Ali said, brought back to Kony's camp.
Then she was again re-abducted.
And she would have been treated as one of his wives, as Kony calls them. We might call them sex slaves. These are women with no rights whatsoever. We know that Kony has sex with them at will, chooses which one on which particular day he wants to come and sleep with him. And he says he has about 100 siblings.
Yeah. So the ones, to the best of his knowledge, the ones who are living here is about 50.
About 50?
Yeah. Then in the bush, maybe 47, maybe 48. The ones remain in the bush.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kony is notorious for having abducted dozens of women. What happens is, before they hit puberty, they work as babysitters, ting-tings in the local word, who look after the children in the camp. And Ali said he was brought up partly by his mother and partly by these other young girls. He called them stepmothers.
And what was Joseph Kony like as a father?
Well, Ali said he didn't have much time, but he always made sure to come and check on the children.
Yes. So his father loves children very, very much.
He sort of described him as a loving father, despite everything, despite the fact that he was waging this war and had possibly more important things to do.
So he will every day make sure that like they're okay. Like he will check on them, although like he had very little time. He was busy.
So he's a presence in this weird commune-like community. For Ali, you mentioned that he had about 100 siblings. What made him the person Joseph Kony chose as his heir?
Well, he rose rapidly through the ranks of the Lord's Resistance Army. When he was about 10, he watched a brother being killed in an army attack. When he was about 11, he was sent to Congo to train to assemble and disassemble a gun, to fire a weapon under Vincent Oti, who was one of Kony's top lieutenants. And he came back, and he was about 15, he said, when he fought his first battle, when he used a gun in anger for the first time. After peace talks with Uganda broke down and the army attacked Kony's camp. And Ali admitted that he was happy in that moment.
Yes, but I'm a Kapagani or the Chiapa Yes,
That attack gave him an opportunity. So, because they also wanted to try it out. All these skills.
Enough games. I was so happy, he said. I wanted to show what I'd learned.
So in my film, very young.
Yes,
He was very happy because it is a call which was answered.
Yeah.
He was very happy with that fighting.
And you found that you were good? You found the real...
So, Gianako,
Yes.
From there, he seemed to go from strength to strength. He was given his first battalion to command when he was 18, and that's several hundred soldiers. So clearly he proved during that time that he was a fierce fighter and that he was brave.
Did you feel in your conversation, once you'd broken the ice, did you feel like you could trust him? Could you take his word for his account of what had happened?
Before I met him, someone else who had met him several times said, he walks into the room and you think, oh my God, how many people have you killed? So I was always aware that I was speaking to a trained killer. And I was so aware that he had a story to tell. And I had been told by someone else who had met him that he's a wheeler dealer, as they described it. He's known to cater his answer to his audience. So I was trying to gently pick at his answers and try and almost cross-reference them against themselves to try and get to something resembling the truth.
Did you have a sense of what he wanted to sell to you?
He absolutely wanted me to understand that he was a victim. That was the theme running through the entire conversation. What I kept trying to work towards was some kind of answer to whether or not he was involved, or the extent to which he was involved in some of his father's atrocities.
So, Richard, you've been telling us about Ali Kony, the son and former heir of Joseph Kony, the warlord, and how, when you met him, he was trying to convince you of how much he'd been a victim. He clearly did very well in the Lord's Resistance Army. He proved himself at a time when his father was earning a reputation around the world for violence and atrocities. Do we have any sense of how much Ali was a part of that? Was he involved in the fighting, the horrific battles that made his father famous?
So he told me that he was involved in easily more than 100 battles. But at the same time, during the period when Ali was coming of age and coming to prominence in the Lord's Resistance Army, there were no reports of major massacres. At that time, the rebel group was morphing into more of a criminal gang, essentially. I wanted to know, however, what Ali thought of some of the most horrendous episodes that have been reported. So I asked him about one of the massacres, May 2004. 59 villagers in a place called Lukodi were gunned down by Kony's rebels. I had been to that village. I had interviewed victims. I was going to ask because I met one man. He said he watched his mother and father. They were shot in front of him. And I'm curious, you were so little at that time, but now you're older. What do you...
Actually,